How about this story, though, earlier today that was making headlines? The Bills' young receiver, Zay Jones, he was arrested for just being an idiot, a knucklehead, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
And, ultimately charges were dropped in this case. We'll get into the details here in just a second. But it was a crazy story. You might have saw the headlines today on all the different outlets. And to talk about it now, we're now joined on the line by TMZ senior producer, Mr. Mike Babcock. Mike, what's going on? We appreciate the time. How are things tonight?
Brad and Keith, how you guys doing?
Doing great, man. Appreciate you coming on. So, Mike, tell us about this story about Zay Jones, man. I know it's pretty crazy, especially with, the draft coming up and everything going on. What happened here?
Yeah, this is one of the more bizarre situations that I have ever seen doing this job, and you do see a lot of crazy stuff. Zay Jones, he's a young receiver. He's a 22-year-old kid with the Bills, just finished up his first year in the NFL. And Monday night, he was hanging out with his brother, Caleb, who's a Minnesota Viking, along with some friends. They were on the 30th floor of an apartment building in downtown L.A., and something went very wrong for Zay. He tried to hurl himself outside of a 30-story window, and thank God he wasn't successful. But it was just a wild situation, and a lot of this was caught on a surveillance camera. And the video is absolutely wild. If you haven't seen it, I would say go to TMZsports.com and look at this video. You see a Zay Jones completely naked, no clothes on, his brother trying to wrestle him, trying to hold him, and you see Zay just fling his brother off to the side, and he goes into a dead sprint. And this part is not captured on video, but we talked to witnesses. He tried to throw himself outside of a 30-story window. Didn't make it through the window, thank God. Don't even want to think about what would have happened if he did get through the window. But he got all cut up. He got bloodied. Police were called. They came. They arrested him for felony vandalism. They took him to jail at about Monday, 11:30 p.m. He sat in jail until Wednesday morning at around 4:30 p.m. So spent about a day and a half in jail and was ultimately released. And like you guys said, the latest thing today, and very fortunate for Zay, is that the L.A. District Attorney has said that he is not going to be pressing charges against Zay. And it was a felony, so he's going to be actually facing some time behind bars, years behind bars. But fortunately for him, he will not be charged. So legally, he is free and clear.
Wow, that's insane. I mean, is the NFL doing anything about it, or did you hear anything about the NFL? Are they going to do anything about this? Or
yeah, the NFL, they said they are looking into the matter. Like I said, now he is not going to be facing any penalty, as far as jail legally. Everything that I've heard about this kid is that he's a good kid and he seems like a smart guy. The actions that you see on this videotape, it doesn't look like somebody who was in their right mind. Something was off. Something wasn't right about him that night. So I don't know, not to speculate, I don't know if it's a situation, he had something going on, in his personal life. Yeah. But he wasn't his normal self that night. So I don't know if he's able to explain that away and then doesn't face any discipline from the NFL. But it's just a strange situation.
TMZ's Mike Babcock joining us on the line here behind the mic, talking about this crazy, bizarre story from Bills receiver Zay Jones today. Charges were dismissed against him, and Keith, as you just mentioned a moment ago, perhaps the NFL, the league office will take action here. Maybe they won't. We'll have to see, but this is just a bizarre. A lot of times in these situations, I think the league, the NFL, likes to let the legal process play out first, and then they will then follow, the cops or the district attorney once they make their determination. Yeah, this takes the cake easily, Keith, right, for the most bizarre thing this offseason so far.
You know what really is bad about this? It's just the fact that you have this is a young guy who plays for the Buffalo Bills. They just lost Tyrod Taylor. And he's gone for the season.
Well, it's Buffalo, right?
Yeah, Buffalo, right?
That's what
it's like it's
Buffalo,
nothing to do with Buffalo. And then you got to it has to be, I know for him, hopefully he wasn't on something. We don't know that. We don't know if he was on anything or anything like that. But you know who else
Right.
it affects in the case? It affects Caleb Jones. Because it's like, this is your brother, and this is going on. And the video on TMZ Sports is gnarly. If you've seen the video, it's crazy. It's blood everywhere. I mean, he seriously could have hurt himself and killed himself. And that had you.
He could have killed himself.
Yeah, and I think what it does is you have to think. What you start thinking about is, do the Bills part ways from a person like that? That's what's interesting. And have they spoke to you about anything like that, Babcock? Have you guys talked to the Bills organization at all? Have they been?
Yeah, I talked to the Bills Tuesday afternoon, shortly after we published the video, and at that point they were just trying to gather information. So they put out a statement, but it was a very generic statement. I think everybody is trying to get to the bottom of this because, hopefully there's nothing wrong with him. But if there is something that needs to be addressed, I think you want to address it because forget about the play on the field. You want to make sure that the kid is okay. And he's only 22 years old. He's so young, has so much life ahead of him. You just want to make sure if something is wrong that it gets addressed.
Yeah, I totally agree.
Jones only been in the league here for just over a year. The Bills picked him in the 2017 draft in the second round, and he had a great college career at East Carolina as well. He set an FBS record with almost 400 career catches. I mean, this is a guy, obviously, who has a big background in football and has been successful. It's just, we've seen different players who come into the NFL, and obviously it's not for everyone, right? And sometimes players can mature quicker than others, and sometimes not, but this could be just something totally separate in itself, right? And, we don't want to speculate, but if there is some kind of mental health problems or something that, hopefully he's able to get some kind of help to try and get everything right there.
Absolutely. He comes from a family. His dad won 3 Super Bowls with the Cowboys. Like you said, his brother Caleb's in the NFL. So this guy comes from a football family. He's been around the game his whole life. But I think regardless, it's a lot. You're 22. You're thrust into this world with all this money and fame, and I think sometimes just on a broad level, we don't understand that this is a lot of stress for these guys to handle at this young age.
Yeah, totally agree. Let me ask you this one thing, Mike, because I know you guys have been on this story the whole time. Have you guys talked to any of the players on the team at all? Have they said anything about this?
No, I have not talked to anybody on the team. I've seen people on social media express their concern and their support for him. His dad actually came out and said that he had his son. He was with his wife. So, Zay is with his family right now, and they said that he's going to be okay. So it seems like he has a good support system around him, which I think is important in a time like this where, this guy's been celebrated his whole life. And, it's a tough video to watch. I don't know the guy, and it was tough for me to watch the video. It's upsetting to see somebody like that. So I can't imagine, what he's going through right now, what he's thinking, that this is kind of unfolding in front of the whole world. So he needs that support right now, I would imagine.
TMZ senior producer Mike Babcock, he is on this story, man. Let me tell you, he's got the pulse of it. As far as different stories that you have covered, does anything compare to this that you've covered throughout your career?
You see a lot of crazy stuff. I worked, very closely with the Ray Rice situation, and that was obviously shocking. I got to be honest, I don't think that anything has kind of surprised me as much as this, where you have a guy who's a really good NFL player who's, in public with no clothes on and tries to throw himself out a window. I really don't think that anything has reached this level of craziness.
What else do you say? Just crazy stuff. It is the NFL offseason. There is no offseason in the NFL, right? There's always something going on, whether it's stuff on the field, transactions, or just crazy things like this. The NFL never sleeps.
How fun is it's true. How fun is the free agent stuff, though? It's
been fantastic.
So
we talk about the Rams. This is a Rams squad that is ready to win here in 2018, Mike. They're going to be one of the prolific teams in the NFC and probably the favorites in the NFC West. It's unbelievable stuff.
Yeah, especially with the moves they've made in the offseason, and Everyone wants to find the next Sean McVay now. They got themselves a great coach. It's a good time to be a Rams fan.
It is. And then you go down to your Giants, and, it hurts.
Oh,
Jason
they traded
Pierre-Paul.
JPP, Keith.
Yeah, they did. They traded JPP today, but it's going to be interesting to see where they go next. We've had discussions, me and you, off before about do they get rid of Eli? Do they go with Eli Manning, or do they trade Odell Beckham? And it looks like they're going to stay with those guys, and it looks like they're going after the boy, Saquon Barkley. So, that's going to be interesting to see what happens in the next couple weeks.
Yeah, I'll tell you what, every time I can't decide, I switch 5 times a day if I want them to take a quarterback, or do I want them to take Barkley, or now do I want them to take Chubb to replace JPP. I cannot decide who I want them to take, but they're in a good spot at 2.
Mike Babcock, follow him on Twitter at Mike J. Babcock. Watch TMZ Sports weeknights on FS1. Hey, Mike, we appreciate the time. Enjoy the rest of the night.
Guys, thank you very much for having me. I appreciate it, Brad and Keith.